And now we feel a strong presence of the energy of 33, an energy of the Gavish Baninu, the master teachers. And we ask them to come forth and allow me the privilege of bringing you their message at this time. Yes, we are here. We are here with you now, and we are here with you forever. We have been together many times before, for within each and every one of the human beings upon your planet, there is the DNA of the Master Teacher. There is the DNA of the Source itself. And we hear you cry out, if that is the case, why does our human life feel so challenging and so difficult at times? And we have told you many times before, it is not punishment, it is not retribution, it is not judgment, and no, it is not even karma. And so we invite you at this time to begin to take a different perspective on the challenges, on the trials and tribulations that every human being faces. Let us assure you that all life has purpose. There are those that put forth the theory of chaos, that things that happen on your planet do so from a place of happenstance. But we would like to assure you that that is not the case. For all life has purpose. And so if the life that you are leading brings you a bump in the road, a challenge, a difficulty, and if that bump in the road, that challenge, that difficulty is not a punishment, is not a judgment, is not a retribution, then maybe, just maybe, it serves a purpose. It is interesting to us, we find the human race amusing at times, or when something that you would consider good happens in your life, it is so easy for you to see it as something of purpose. It is easy for you to interpret that good event as part of a grander scheme, as part of a grander plan. But when something that you may refer to as bad or challenging or difficult comes your way, you are very quick to run away from the concept that it was for purpose. We would like to suggest to you that the purpose that occurs in human life is not always the purpose of your humanness. For we know, living in the duality and in the place of free choice, if your lifetime expression was of your design, you most likely would incorporate purposes that only have beneficial results. And because the learning is not as great, because the learning is not as broad or as all-encompassing when events happen for the purpose of only, shall we say, good. And in order for life, human life, to evolve, there must be things that happen that are unpleasant, shall we use your word, bad. And so the trick, so to speak, is to begin to interpret what you would call the bad events in your life through the lenses of purpose. And since your humanness did not design that purpose, it is important for you to form a stronger bond, a better relationship with that part of you that was responsible for the purpose. And what we are referring to is your higher self. We have told you before that human life is for learning, for expanding, for evolving. And in order to do so, when that part of you that is a part of the source comes forth, it creates setups, it creates propensities that may cause quote unquote good things to happen to you and quote unquote bad things to happen to you. We use quotation marks because in the higher realms there is no judgment as to what is good and what is bad. All is. And we say that there are propensities. And what we mean by that is that there are strong possibilities of things happening to you in your lifetime expression. But since you live in the place of free choice, whether these propensities are fulfilled, so to speak, is up to you. For that part of you that is the source is not interested in whether something bad comes into your life. That higher self is really more interested in how you choose to respond to what comes your way. And therein lies the greatest power that the human being has. And that is your choice on how you respond to what comes your way. And so if you believe what we say is true, and that the propensities for the good and the bad things in your life were set up by that part of you that is invisible, that belongs to the great Creator, then the only power you truly have is how you choose to respond to what comes your way. That is the true power of the human condition. For although human life would be far more enjoyable if all that came your way in the years of your human existence was what you might describe as good, pleasant, joyful, blissful, there would be no learning, there would be no expansion of life if that was the case. So many human beings bring upon themselves such struggle by giving away their power. Yes, their power to respond to what comes their way. There is much darkness that is oozing forth at this time in human history. And we have told you before, it is not a sign, it is not a premonition that planet Earth is headed towards the Dark Ages. If you were on our side of the veil, you would be able to read the potentials in a way that we think would please you. For the potentials of great light, the potentials for enlightenment, the potentials for mastery are stronger now on your planet than they have been in eons. And you have heard us talk of the tipping point. And the tipping point is that point when the collective consciousness moves stronger to the light than it does to the dark. And since there is much light shining brightly on your planet, it is squeezing the darkness to the top. And whether that darkness is your personal darkness or is a global darkness, we are here to remind you of the power you have to respond in a positive way to the darkness. Now we know that as a human race, that you cannot give to others what you do not have yourself. So it is impossible for you to send love to the global darkness unless you have learned to send love to your personal darkness. It is impossible for you to send compassion to the global darkness until you have learned to send compassion to your personal darkness. So we are asking you this evening to become more aware of your response to your personal darkness. Your world, the collective consciousness, will only shift to the light when more and more human beings shift to the light. You need not worry about changing the world. Instead, we encourage you to focus on you. For as a microcosm, you are the world. And it is time to change the paradigm on how you react to your personal darkness. Whether that personal darkness be physical maladies, emotional challenges, career-related, money-related, relationship-related, each and every human being will go through their personal struggle. We reiterate what we said a few moments ago. It is a purpose in your life designed for you by your higher self. And again, we repeat, not as punishment, not as retribution, not as judgment. You are very capable of learning to look at the darkness in a different light. For darkness is merely the absence of light. And if you wish for your darkness to be mitigated, then you must learn to shine light upon it. And when your response to what is not going well in your life comes from a place of disappointment, of complaining, of blaming, then you are simply adding darkness to the darkness. So we encourage you to contemplate ways that you can pour more light on your darkness. And of course, we know what we are asking you to do is difficult because of all of the conditioning that you have had in your human life. When a physical malady comes your way, we are not asking you to rejoice. We are asking you to respond with as much light as you can muster as the darkness washes over you, as the fear begins to rage, as the temptation to predict calamity for yourself grows stronger. And we ask you to think about the times, if you are a parent or a friend or a sibling. How if someone you loved was going through a difficult time, what was your response? And we suggest that many of you would come from a place of compassion and understanding and friendship and love, and try to console that person and try to make that person feel better. In other words, to bring a little bit of light to their difficult situation. And so we know you are capable of doing so when the emotional connection to that darkness is not as strong. It is easier to console a friend, a relative, a loved one who is sick because you are not facing that sickness. And so we know it takes courage, and we know it takes discipline to look fear in the eye and to move through it. We know when the bad news hits, the shock reverberates throughout your whole body. But we are encouraging you to become more conscious, more aware of when darkness shows up in your life. And instead of following the conditioned beliefs that simply fuel that darkness, we ask you to treat yourself like you would your best friend or loved one, with compassion, with empathy, with love. Human life is very fragile, and as humans, you cling to that life as was the design. But whether you stay living in your human form or you transition out of that human form back to from where you came, you have a choice. You have a choice every minute of every day how you respond to what comes your way. That is your power. And so many of you have given that power away. It is time to rethink that paradigm. It is time to rethink how we respond to whatever it is that comes our way. There are so many conditioned beliefs that have been handed down from generation to generation that make no sense when you understand more fully how life operates. When people say, don't get too excited about the goodness that's coming in your life, you'll scare it away. Don't laugh too much, you may start to cry. Are these beliefs serving you well? It is time to wake up. And so we encourage you when you wake up tomorrow morning, no matter when it is throughout the day, where the first darkness hits you, whether it's reading the news, watching the news, hearing from a friend, looking outside and seeing the weather. Unfortunately, as we have said to you, there is lots of darkness oozing forth at this time. And so when that first ray, we will call it a ray of darkness, or that makes no sense because we usually refer to the ray as a ray of light. But as we said, darkness is merely the absence of light. So when that first ray of darkness hits you, take a moment, take a deep breath, connect to that part of you that is the source, and ask yourself, if this was happening to my best friend, how would I console them? How would I respond to them? How would I help them through this challenge? And since there is so much darkness coming everyone's way each day, the chance of responding in a more light-filled way to each dark experience that comes your way is going to be very, very difficult in the beginning. And we are not suggesting perfection. We are suggesting that one response at a time to the darkness will begin to shift your life, will begin to change your overall personal vibration. And then you will find that as you are more capable of responding to the darkness in the lightest way possible for yourself, it will be easier and easier to do for others. We encourage you to find a buddy to help you, to remind you when your response to the darkness is not as positive as it could be. And you do the same for them. And remember, the collective responses to the darkness that comes our way will determine the way of the world. And it starts with you and how you choose to respond to whatever comes your way. It will feel strange at first, because responding in a negative way to darkness is something that has been conditioned into many of you for years and years. It is going to be more difficult for the older ones. If you want to see how it is done, watch the young ones. Watch the babies. Watch how they respond to difficulties and challenges that come their way. They cry, they howl, and a few moments later they begin to laugh. There is no one way that you can respond to the darkness that will set you free. It takes practice. You must do it from a place of genuineness and authenticity. This is not an area that we encourage you to fake it till you make it. And if that darkness brings up anger, honor the anger. If that darkness brings up frustration, honor the frustration. For by doing so, you will allow it to move through you. And that response of truth, will allow a twinkle of light to come forth. So please begin to reflect and contemplate on our message as you move forward. And we remind you that the collective consciousness's response to darkness is what keeps it alive, is what allows it to grow. And each and every one of you are capable of shifting that darkness into light. And we are here with you every step of the way. Please know we love you always and forever, and our guidance is always available to you. When that darkness shows up, don't be afraid to cry out to us and ask for assistance in how you might better respond. We are here with you whenever you wish to communicate with us. Our love for you is everlasting and unconditional.